Oh, somebody's passing me a note. Send me the fair board link. Okay. Okay, we are live streaming, folks. Todd, I'm going to hand the controls over to you. Okay, I'm making you the host. Okay, and Todd, you should be able to take it away from here.
Frank, do you want to preside or do you want me to preside?
Why don't you, please?
Okay. I will call to order this meeting of the Lincoln County Fair Board on July 14th, 2022. I am Claire Hall, Vice Chair of the Fair Board. Also present at the meeting is Frank Geltner, Board Chair. Fair Board member Jim Beisman is absent. I have not seen any minutes of the June meeting, so we will defer approval of June minutes until a future meeting. So then our next item of business usually is a fair 4-H extension report. And Todd, I'll let you kick that off, okay?
Well, good afternoon, all, and thank you. As I'm sure you all know, we had a fair. In a nutshell, it was I think it was extraordinary. I'll go out on a limb at the beginning here and say I think it was our best effort ever, and I think the numbers support that. Let's run through some numbers here real quick just to give you a synopsis.
Todd,
yes.
I'm sorry. Can you you need to add Jack Whaley in? Can you make sure he's here, but he can't jump on until you promote him to panelist? Sorry to interrupt you there.
No problem. Attendee Jack Moore, panelist. No, I hope that worked. Okay. There, he must be coming on.
There you go. Okay, good job.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. And here we go again. Some numbers just to give you an idea of sort of where my feelings of the fair are this year and why I think it was a very, very good fair, but I think it also raises some flags that we need to talk about. Here's my my draft P&L. You can see that I made some red marks and some green marks. Red are places where we had expenses and or lack of income, revenue, reduced revenue that I think are telling. Green are places where I think we did really good. So just to run down some fair expenses here, TCV charged us 266% of what we paid last year. So a significant increase in labor costs for security. We also, for the first time ever, paid for a radio promo, paid somebody to produce that promo, and then distributed that to the to all the radio networks. Where in the past we had done that promo ourselves, we actually paid this year to have that done. Garbage collection cost me twice as much. We had always used Shangri-La in the past. Shangri-La called me with less than a week notice and said, we are unable to do that this year. So sorry. So to find appropriate or adequate garbage collection, we ended up paying two separate groups, a 4-H group as well as a second group to come in and do that garbage collection. So very, very expensive for us. And then the price of our toilets, porta potties and toilets went up significantly. Part of that increased expense, I gladly took on, and actually, I suppose what I really did is I volunteered resources of the Fair Board to the high school. There was a Latino soccer tournament with about 300 youth going on at the high school right next door to the fairgrounds the same weekend. They had made no provision for toilets and came over and asked if they could use our toilets. And I was worried that with as many people as they had, that wasn't going to be sufficient. So I actually brought in with our vendor 2 more porta potties and had them placed there at the high school because they simply didn't have the resources or ability to do that. So I spent your money, or spent our fair money, supporting the Latino soccer tournament, but I think it was the right thing to do for the community. We did make great relationships out of it. They are interested in doing it again. It did bring a large number of underserved Latino folks to the area from all over the state. And I'm very much hopeful that they will do it there again next year at the same time as our fair, and that they will bring their own toilets instead of relying on us to provide them. We were able to cut expenditures in a couple of areas. Our rodeo awards, we only spent 32%. I found a new vendor to provide actually an engraved pocket knife rather than a belt buckle. And so we had a significant reduction in awards. We didn't have to buy as many rodeo shirts because many of our superintendents already had shirts. And the open class judges were a little bit less than what we had spent in the past. Under entertainment, our sound system cost exactly the same. I did bring in Joe Stoddard, a statewide musician and comedian, the most I've ever paid for that type of service. In the past, we've paid about $500 for somebody to do a strolling act. Joe is a resource, a contact that we've made at Oregon Fair Association, and he was extraordinary. Not only did he stroll around on his little horse puppet thing, talking to the crowd and making a lot of friends, but we also had a couple of holes in the music schedule, and he was able to just jump up there and jam and fill in with some other bands. He was well worth the money. Even though he was expensive, we got a great benefit from him. And as I mentioned, we had a couple of holes in the music, and that means that our musicians cost us a little bit less, about half of what we paid in the past. Staffing was essentially the same. The reason it looks like we paid Patty Tagg and Connie Morgan more this year was that last year we paid $200 to Patty. This year, it was a team effort between Patty and Connie, so we gave them each $150 stipend. So it was an increase overall, but we actually got an extra body out of the deal. On the income side, our sponsorship on the fair side remains flat, remains even. We had exactly what we had from the major vendors last year. On the beer and wine side, fees collected, we were down, but we sold more beer. And the reason that we were down is I used a different vendor this year. The Eagles Club had provided that service for a number of years for us. This year I changed and I let the Bay Haven do that job. And the deal that I negotiated with them is for this first year, we will only take 30% or only take 10% instead of 40%, just to get some good numbers. Turns out they sold a lot more, probably a third more than what we had previously done. But because we took a smaller percentage, our revenue was down there. Our vendor fees are up about 60%. Our food vendor revenue is up about 14%. Our camels for the second year is way, way, way up, but that's because last year we thought we had a monster truck we were going to pay for that didn't show up, and we ended up paying the camel vendor to provide free rides on one day, and the revenue that they produced offset those free rides. This year we have 3 days of paying service and collected $1,900 from them, so a nice little bump there. And Bouncy Houses sent us $500. Last year, they sent us $1,000. The deal that I have with them, and the only way that we've been able to keep the Bouncy Houses is to say no risk. We'll provide the location. if you make money, you send us a check. I'm not going to argue about what you send us, or if you lose money, don't send us a check. I think their revenue was up over last year, but the check they sent us was down. Either way, it's just nice to provide that for the kids, and very, very nice to make some income off of that. As we talk about the rodeo side of things, when I say it's a year of expenses, you guys know that we had to rent chutes and panels this year because our stuff was just in such bad shape. It wasn't going to make it another year. That cost us $4,500. And then the forklift that we had to rent to move all that stuff was another $1,000. We've got almost $6,000 in expenses right off the top. Everything else remains about the same. I said that awards and shirts are down a little bit. And we did pull out all the stops and do a better VIP rodeo dinner on both nights, or barbecue on both nights. It cost us a little more. We spent $500 last year, and it was a little more expensive this year, but it was a nice service. Our revenue, online ticket sales are down just a little, but gate tickets selling in person were up just a little, putting us essentially where we were last year. And our sponsorship is just almost even with last year as well. What that means in the overall picture is that our rodeo income was $2,100. We finished in the black. We're happy about that. But that's only 18% of the roughly $15,000 that we made last year. Our fair income is about $1,300, $1,400. And that's only 30% of what we made last year. Remember, last year, the rodeo really carried the lion's share of the expenses, and the fair, although it broke even, the rodeo was much more profitable. When we look at total income and total expenses, our income is almost flat. The money that we've taken in it remains the same. We do have a 30% overall increase in expenses. And that then gives us this net income of only 22% of what we did prior years. So to take all of that, it's my observation that based on the toilet servicing, the garbage servicing, the vendor fees or food vendor increase, the beer and wine consumption increase, I think we're again probably in the neighborhood of 10 to 15% increase in participation. We've been using a number of 25,000 for the last couple of years post-COVID, and I think if we add that 10% this year, I think we're 27,500, 28,000 in that area somewhere, and that certainly brings us into the realm of being kind of a middle of the road fair, moves us out of that category of the smallest fairs in the state, and I'm pretty happy with that. I think for our little community, our little county, I think that's a very major accomplishment. I'm concerned that between Heather and I, we simply don't have time to increase this income line. We've got to find a way. It's easy to increase the expenses. I can hire musicians and entertainers all day long. Things like there's no shortage of things we can spend money on to make our fair better, but we've got to have income to do that. And one of the best ways I can think of to do that is when we get these working fair board members on board, make sure that one of those people is somebody that's going to be willing to jump right into that donation and sponsorship role, make new contacts, expand our scope beyond where Heather and I are currently and what we've done currently, and really help that income line. I think that's the next big step, is to figure out how we get more income so that we can then support more more things at the fair that cost money, whether those are musical acts or musicians or whatever we want to showcase. But in a nutshell, I'm very, very pleased. I think it's our best effort. It certainly shows that it was bigger than previous. And I'm delighted that we ended in the black on both accounts, because I was really worried I was going to end up coming back and saying, well, this is the first year in 8 years that I'm not going to be able to report that we finished in the black. I was very worried with the expenses we were going to end up in the red. There may be a few other expenses coming in. This is draft, but I'm reasonably convinced that this is pretty close to where we're going to be. Questions?
Thank you for that great report.
You're very, very welcome. Let me also say thanks to the people that showed up at the fair. Of course, me and Heather and Patty and Connie, as well as Steve Mason, Josh Hector, the rodeo superintendent, and then of course fair board members. Claire was there, Katie was there, commissioners as well. Wayne, thank you. He came in and did some accounting and money handling for us, as well as help me, Heather. Jean, I think came in and took our deposits, which is wonderful. It truly is becoming a team effort. And I really want to ride that wave a little bit and try to expand that group and get a couple more people that bring some significant skill to our party. So again, thank you all. I'm pleased. I'm happy with our success and looking forward to what next year brings.
So is the plan for next year basically status quo? In terms of putting the event together and moving forward?
Yeah, here's what I will say, and this sort of goes maybe outside of the fair report a little bit, but more into the inner workings of 4-H youth development. But it's probably timely to bring this up. They have at this point announced that they will backfill my position in Lincoln County. They're going to make me 1.0 FTE at the state level, which means that the benefit to that is that they're backfilling where I've been just 30%, and we've been backfilling with Heather for the balance of this year. They are going to rehire and put a new full-time person in my place. So from the Lincoln County side, that's terrific. It means that the university's commitment remains strong, and somebody will be serving Lincoln County in a full-time position beyond the limited capacity that we've had this last year. That position, boy, how do I say this in a public forum? That position may be filled internally with somebody that you already know and already works within our unit. Or it may not be. We don't know that yet. But my commitment to the unit has been that I will do whatever needs to happen based on who they fill that position with. So if it's somebody that we know and wants me to be there, I'm there. I will be there. I will make it work in the coming year. If it's an outsider, I think I need to let them make that decision. If they want me, I will still be there. If they come in with their own ideas and don't want me, by all means, I'm not going to bully my way in. So I guess all that, Claire, to answer your question, I'm there if they want me, but it's going to take probably until October to figure out who that new person's going to be and what role they want me to play. But I will commit to being there, provided I'm a benefit and they want me to be there.
Okay, great to know. So any further comments, questions from the body before we move on?
Let me just ask Heather if I missed anything in that. Heather, are there key points that I'm missing?
I don't think so. I think you covered everything. I just keep getting the question of if we're gonna be doing fair, the same, the 30th, 1st and 2nd next year, or I think it's the 4th is on a Tuesday, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Right. And that's probably good to reiterate in this open forum. Our commitment was to do the fair on the first full weekend of July. So that means it will be the 30th, the 1st and the 2nd, with 4th of July following the fair again, not the 6th, 7th, 8th, or whatever the first full Friday, Saturday, Sunday would be. I think if we go back to the minutes, we'll find that that was very, very clearly defined when we moved to 4th of July, is that we would be the first full weekend of July.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we definitely should get that word out, because as was indicated, people are already asking.
Yeah, and we'll get that posted on the website as well. And in fact, maybe what we should do is not only post the dates, but the first full weekend of July, and just let people start thinking of it in that connotation. It's the first Saturday, Sunday, but then the Friday that precedes that, the first Saturday, Sunday of July, and whatever Friday precedes that.
Okay. Hey, Colleen, you're online. Anything you would like to add about this year's event? You are muted.
Well, let's see how well this works, and hopefully there's not a lot of backdraft, because I'm currently sitting in Lynn County Fair with a live fair. So,
So far so good.
So just a couple things to point out really quick. We were down a little bit in open class, but only down by about 1%. So I'm okay with that. We had 22 kids participating with 47 exhibits. So our kids' numbers are going up. And I think our numbers were down a little bit. COVID concerns are still out there. People are moving in and out of county, etc. Wanted to let Jim and Frank both know that the military stepped in and pitch hit for you guys as honorary fair board members. So they came in, since we had 6 branches of service, all of them came in, each branch picked an item in your name.
Great.
So still had our fair board awards, and they were excited to do it. They said, we'll pitch hit anytime, not a problem. But as it go forward, we're kind of working through details, but we're looking at doing a Spirit of USA, Pride of Lincoln County type award as a rosette, red, white, and blue. Each branch of military gets to pick one as a go forward, because they're super excited about participation. The other thing was the commissioners' awards were really well received. And Claire, thank you for coming in to select. Once again, we pitch hit as well, but they 4 inches longer than what I originally asked for. They're horse ribbons. But we had our ribbon supplier had a family emergency, so we just dropped back and punt, and that's exactly what we did. But I think it's a really good go forward.
Great. All right, then are we ready now to move into staff reports? County staff. Wayne, do you have anything?
I do, and Jack can help me with this. Apparently, and I don't know where this came from, but since I've been retired that this actually came through, but the state ended up providing every county with some money to do improvements on facilities at fairs.
That's right.
And so we got our little share, as I understand it, and Jack and Claire, you can help me. It's $277,000.
Oh, that's even more than I had heard. I had only heard 200,000. But
and so we've come up with some plans that are consistent with the overall master plan to do some improvements, and we're going to get those paid for. I don't know, Jack, where we are in terms of actually getting. Are you seeking quotes, or maybe you can take it from here and explain where we're at with everything?
Yeah, and basically, Jack, if you could describe the scope of work and what building is going to be worked on as well.
You're muted, Jack.
Yeah, we don't see the little mute sign, but we're not hearing you. Now you're muted. Now you're unmuted. Yeah, dang it. Something on your computer turned down, a master or something. shoot.
Well, how about I explain, Jack, and you can nod your head yes or no.
Okay,
if I-
there you go.
We'll try that. I'm sorry. I did get a little bit of details. So it is the floral building, or what we're calling now the new 4-H building, is what's
Uh-huh.
going to be improved.
No, wait a minute,
now-
he's shaking his head. I thought it was going to be the barn. Yeah.
Oh,
Jack's
well,
nodding his
I was
head.
told it
This
was a
is-
floral building.
Nope.
All right.
Barn.
Okay. Then I'm already wrong with the building it's going to do.
Because we already did electrical on the
Right.
barn, and Jack, you keep nodding or saying no. This will allow us to do the roof and the exterior siding. Huh. Nope.
There's a project.
Yeah,
How about now?
there you are.
There we go.
All right.
Thank you, Jack. Yeah, correct
All
my
right.
misimpressions.
I'm a little better at computers than I thought I was. All right, so out of all the buildings we looked at, the floral buildings in not terrible condition. It's everything that's there is repairable. So, and that, modest cost. The other buildings that we looked at, the horse barn, of course, is a loss. Harney building is a loss. Rabbit barn is a loss. There's not enough to do to the tractor sheds. So that left the 4-H barn, and the 4-H barn historically in the last 5 years has seen the most traffic. We use it for Christmas trees. We use it for 4-H. We use it for, we use it, which is important. So we decided to go ahead and get a new roof for the 4-H barn and new siding all the way around, and then repair the doors. There's probably not enough money to get the interior gravel, put in concrete, but that can be something we can later. But I imagine for the next 7 or 8 years, that will be a vital piece of infrastructure that we can use not only for fairs, but also when we finally enter into construction phase, we're going to need somewhere, because a lot of that is going to be taken to the ground. So this will provide us with a great place to stage. And I figure if we can get 7 to 10 years out of the repairs we do this time, it'll be money well spent towards the new fairgrounds. And we can make that decision once ground is broken and we have something else to work with on the grounds, whether or not the 4-H barn needs to stay where it's at or move. But I still think that money will buy you 7 to 10 years of very profitable, very usable space.
Thanks, Jack. I didn't realize that was the building. That was not what I was told, but that's fine. That's great.
Can I throw in a couple of quick comments here?
Sure. Todd, please do.
Important to note that that fair money is a direct result of the lobbyists that Oregon Fairs Association hired several years ago now. That effort to get the state to kick back more money in support of fairs was driven hard by Oregon Fairs Association. Of course, we're members of that and support them strongly. Our proceeds that we spend, that we give to them, hire and provide that lobbyist. And I think this is an identification that affiliation with that association is fruitful, and we need to protect that and maintain that going forward. Just another thought, if we're going to strip that building is currently about 25% concrete floors. If we're going to strip that thing down, I'm wondering if we could use some of that transient room tax money to provide to concrete the balance of it. It would sure make cleanup a lot easier, right? We've been putting chips in there on the floor for decades. And they are, in my tenure, in the last 10 years, we've hauled them out and dumped them twice, and put new chips in a bunch of times. And if we could concrete that whole floor, it would sure make the building more usable and the cleanup a lot better. I'm just wondering if it makes sense, when we've got that thing torn apart, to spend a little money beyond what we were provided from OFA. Or lottery money, a little bit of the money that we have in reserve to concrete the entire thing as well. Just a thought.
Jack, any initial thoughts on that?
Would love to see that. It would secure the building as part of the fairgrounds. I mean, if I went that far and we went ahead and poured the field inside the building, I sure would hate to get rid of it after that point. So I imagine by the time we get the new exhibit hall built and get some throughput through it, I don't see us needing to tear that building down. If the master plan says it's a must, that will make it more difficult. But that would secure it for the next 20 years, I think, if we went that far.
Jack, just a comment, just to kind of look at it. Actually, the master plan included the barn. It's continues, but it was relocated. If you recall, it was moved. And I don't know whether or not the work you're doing here, there's probably not, is that structure going to be something you can relocate?
No,
I didn't think so. You're buying basically the interim fix is what you're doing.
Exactly. Right now, it's an interim fix that'll last us 7 years solid. I feel good about 7. If we add the concrete field, then I would definitely rethink the master plan to include that where it stands. If it can't be done and it needs to be moved, then I would probably forego the slab.
Is there something else you could do in terms of the floor? A temporary fix on the floor, Jack, versus doing concrete?
Gravel, it's a dirt floor. There's like Todd was saying, there's 25%. There's 1/4 of it in the south. It's the southeast corner already has a pad there, and we've used that pad extensively for all these other functions. If we go ahead and increase that pad size, I mean, once you lay concrete, it's pretty permanent. So if we decide to relocate the 4-H barn, it's a tear down. It means we're building a new 4-H barn somewhere else. I mean, there's nothing about that barn that we're going to save and sort of move. So it would be a loss. Everything that we did to that would be a loss, but I'm not opposed to keeping it. It's in a good location. Like I said, we will just have to rework the master plan a little bit to make sure that fits where it's going to be. Maybe move some, at this point, imagined sidewalks or imagined thoroughfares or imagined parking would have to be adjusted to keep the 4-H barn, but I don't think that would be a stretch. The barn is in a good location and it's very useful. So
maybe
sounds worth considering to me.
Can you get us an estimate, Jack, on what that would cost if you were to do the concrete? You don't have to do it right now. Just
I'm not going to be able to just
no. Just I think present that number, especially to the commissioners.
Yeah, we can. I can have the local company come out and give me a quote.
Okay.
Just to add,
and that'll give us a ballpark anyway.
Just adding to that thinking a little bit, we've always been concerned about storage and in particular, not just panel storage, but tractor storage. Maybe that barn in the master plan becomes our new tractor barn, and then we so go ahead and relocate 4-H down below, like
absolutely. The tractor equipment right now is literally stuffed into that little barn, because now we have 2 tractors and one of them is much larger, and the implements are sadly outside. Before winter, we'll put the more expensive, more mechanically intricate implements. We're going to have to put those inside somewhere because I don't want to leave those out. But even our rakes and some of the less mechanically intricate pieces will still suffer outside. So it would be nice to have. It would be nice to have a big barn.
And right now, the storage that we're using is in that indoor horse arena, which is one of the buildings that isn't going to make it much longer. So we're going to run out of storage when that building has to come down. We're in trouble. So anyway, I think there are about a bunch of options, and I don't think that extra. I by my calculations, Jack, I think it's 4,800 square feet of concrete. I don't think it'd be a huge additional expense to get that slab in there, and especially if we're going to keep that barn as storage and tractor shed, it might be perfect. So anyway, great thoughts. Thank you.
Well, we're on the subject of the fairgrounds or the commons itself. I contacted Jack right after the fair event. I had, really noticed that it just seems like the deterioration of the paved walkways around the grounds just seems to be accelerating. I could, there were a couple of spots that I found a little challenging to negotiate. I started thinking about potential liability issues. And then I got an email the next day from a citizen essentially who had been trying to help an elderly and disabled family member negotiate around the grounds, raising the same issues. So what I was interested in, and I'm just wondering if you've had a chance to look at it yet, Jack, is how could we spend some money on kind of an, temporary fixes, at least smooth out some of the worst of it?
Well, it's a sticky wicket, because as soon as you start, where do you stop?
Yeah.
And then how much money are we going to spend only to tear up when we implement? And I mean, this is the catch-22 we've been caught in for years. The
I
real
know.
answer is let's kick the project in the butt and let's get it moving. Even if we can start some of the ancillary projects
Mm-hmm.
and at least get some improvements done, even if it's not the whole thing. Anyway, just anything, because I'm just terrified to go in there and lay down new asphalt.
That we'd
And
have to
there's a
tear
reason it's
back.
called black gold.
Yeah.
But if we lay down new asphalt walkways, that's a 5 to 10 years. Then if we treated it and kept it
Mhm.
coated, but to spend it only to tear it up would just be heartbreaking. And I know we've backfilled with gravel. We've
Mhm.
done our best to fill potholes when we can. It's just showing its age, and
Yeah.
we have a plan.
Mhm.
Just a matter of getting a fire lit under it. If we move forward, then a lot of this will go away.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Anybody else have thoughts? I mean, I absolutely am with Jack and not wanting to put bad money after good, but at the same time, it's really pretty rough in spots, and I'm, wondering, for instance, about liability
Basically,
issues. If
every
somebody
year,
takes a tumble.
a month before fair, we run in there and just patch everything back together.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not the way to treat the facility. It would just be so beneficial if we had a body on there, a fair manager / groundskeeper would work. Just somebody there to keep up with it. Because we go from abandonment to necessity to abandonment to necessity. And that is just it's a terrible way to do business. So
I got to agree. Anybody else online have any thoughts on this?
No, I think you've all summarized it quite well.
Yeah. Well, Tim Johnson, the new administrator, this is one of the projects that he really wants to jumpstart. I think the new animal shelter is top of his list, but this is right beneath it. And while we're under county reports, maybe this would be the best time to report on Fair Board recruitment. I have a press release all ready to go. And then when we looked at putting that out and asking people to come forward to apply for Fair Board seats, we thought rather than just using the very generic county committee application form, to develop one that's more focused on the specific needs of the Fair Board. So I've got a draft of that circulating around the office right now. Not everybody has had a chance to review it yet, but once they do, I really want to get that pushed out the door just as soon as we can and get this process moving.
Claire, I did a draft that I sent to Casey too, that Todd and I kind of worked on together. I
Okay,
don't know if you want to look at it and maybe include some of the things that we were thinking, like specifically trying to find people that have marketing backgrounds would be
Oh, yeah.
fabulous, and like financial,
Okay.
basically people that can handle lots of money
Okay.
in a
Heather?
short period of time and things like that. So
okay, Heather, would you mind sending that directly to me?
I will right now.
Yeah, great, because Casey, with our staff turnovers and shortages here is juggling 1,000 balls at once. Of course, we all do that in our lives, but it would just expedite things. So thank you. Anything else under county staff? I don't know, Jack, maybe I'd ask you about the car show and how that getting them on site is going. And I don't even remember the timeline. Are they wrapped up yet?
I believe they're getting close to wrapping up. It was uneventful. They came in almost immediately after fair, so everything was already in place. I have no complaints so far. There were some miscommunications, but that's going to happen on a big job. So
Yeah, and also with so many staff transitions, but glad to hear a happy ending.
yeah, no, they were pleasant and friendly as they always are.
Good, good.
Yeah. No, I have no complaints.
That's very good to hear. So anything else for the good of the order at this time?
I know
Frank.
for a fact that I will be out of the country on October 13th. That's assuming I'm still on the fair board that late in the year. So you should check to see if you have a quorum for that day.
Okay. Anything else before we sign this off? One more call.
Two very, very quick ones. In my thank yous, I didn't have the opportunity to thank Jack and his staff leading up to fair, between the Cascadia Rising event, my fair, of course, and then the car show. It was a quick changeover for those three events, and Jack really pulled out all the stops, and I was able to utilize his folks a lot more than we have in the past, and it made all of that very durable. So Jack, thank you for making that resource available. An unpleasant topic, maybe. We lost one of our big tents in a windstorm during the Cascadia event. And I think Jack has got plans to get that sent back for repair. I don't know what that's going to cost us yet, but that is the first time. I think that tent is 7 years old now. So amortizing out the cost of that over 7 years without damage is still pretty notable in our climate, where things happen often very eventfully and without notice. So big wind picked it up, slammed it back down, tore through the top of it where the big struts hold it up. I haven't seen the damage, but according to Jack, I sounds like it's probably repairable. So
it was about a 4-foot rip across the seam. So hopefully they can bring that back together and restitch it.
Yeah. So we'll have that back together by next fair, we hope.
All right.
That's all I got.
One more time. Anyone else? Okay. At 3:19, I will adjourn this meeting of the Fair Board. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.